Dan George with John Mousinho. John, nice to speak to you. First of all, you've had some time to reflect after the kind of madness after Watford on Boxing Day. How are you kind of feeling after you've had that chance to kind of look back?
Yeah, very similar to how we felt on the day after the game. Devastated that we'd not at least taken a point, and really disappointed with the fact that we worked so hard for the majority of the game to come away with nothing. So. I think whenever you lose a game in that manner, you're going to have those sort of emotions. I think if you'd have taken that goal out of it in the 95th minute, we'd have been really pleased with the performance. So we can't lose sight of that. We've got to take all of the positives that we can from that, but also take the realistic lessons that we need to see games out a bit better and deal with all of the externals and make sure that we don't let it affect us.
By the sounds of it, from what you said afterwards, you were largely kind of encouraged by the overall performance, obviously bar the last minute goal. Is that a kind of blueprint that you want to take into future away performances?
Yeah, I think if you take the Derby game out of it, and obviously it happened, so we can't necessarily ignore it altogether, but apart from the Derby game, performances in recent weeks have been really positive, home and away from home, and we've taken a lot from that. I think ever since we played Hull away from home, and you put in a really, really solid performance up there. We've been pretty good. We've been good on the road. We've been very, very good at home, and I thought it was a really good away performance yesterday. So you've got to take the goal into account and make sure that we do deal with that situation a bit better. But by and large, I was very, very pleased with what I saw.
I've got to ask you, John, after the game, Tom Cleverley was very bold in what he kind of said to our colleagues at BBC Radio 3 Counties. He said that, in his opinion, he was disappointed in what you said and said that your behaviour cost your side. Can I just get your response to those comments, how you feel about that?
Yeah, to be honest, Tom Cleverley's comments don't concern me in the slightest. So I in the most polite possible way, I don't care what he said.
Yeah. But do you disagree that your actions had any kind of impact negatively on your team?
No, like I said, I haven't even listened to what he said, his opinion doesn't really concern me. The only opinions that concern me are unless he buys the football club, then I'll start listening to him. So that'll be a time that I'll start to concern myself with what Tom Cleverley says.
Sure, and the feeling kind of off the pitch from I think around the fan base since that game when Colby Bishop came back and that magical moment when he scored after all that time off the pitch. I think the feeling since that moment is that at home Pompey can give it to the best of the teams in the Championship. Are you encouraged by that, and do you feel like if that kind of form and the ability to play how you do at home, are you confident that you'll be able to more than stay up this season?
Yeah, I think we've put ourselves in a much better position over the past few weeks, and obviously we're sitting outside of the relegation zone at the moment. There's not quite as big of a buffer as we'd like, and we've got to make sure we're building on that. But certainly, if you look at some of the home performances over the past few weeks, if you start with the Preston game, Bristol City, Norwich, Coventry, these are all really, really good sides as well. So good sides that have gone on to do, or take some impressive results after we've played them, and we've either beat them in the case of Preston, Bristol City and Coventry, or taking the point with Norwich. So really, really encouraged with that. I think our away form has probably been slightly patchier. We need to make sure we address that, and I thought yesterday went a long way to doing that, and it should give us a lot of confidence going into that. And ultimately I think in any season, whether you're successful or whether you're sort of scrapping down the bottom, you're probably going to be defined by your home form, and that's something that took us a while to get going, but certainly is something that's really, really encouraging. So we can't neglect the away form. We've got to make sure we pick up points away from home as well, but we're really confident side, I think, going into these home games.
Have you had a chance to reflect yet on coming from League One to the Championship? Have you had a moment of reflection where you've been able to look at the journey, kind of analyse what some of the big step-ups are for you?
No, not really. We're constantly doing that, so we're always doing that. We did it from the moment that we got promoted back in April, and we started to look at what the differences between the two leagues would be, and we see it week in, week out with some of the sides that we play against, some of the individuals we play against, and I think it's there's a huge step up. There's a massive gulf in between the two leagues, and we've probably learned that the hard way this season to a certain extent. But I also think we've settled down, and we've had a lot more positivity and a lot more success with certain players, with the team adjusting to the level and making sure that we get things right. So we constantly do that. We constantly assess where we are as a football club and where we are as a squad, and we do our best to try and make sure that we can compete.
Would you say that you're enjoying the experience of being a Championship manager and all that comes with it?
Coventry was enjoyable. Yesterday, not so much, but that's the way it is. When you're winning games, if you win games of football, it's enjoyable. Last year was an amazing season. This year's been a lot more testing. Anybody that's probably interviewed me after the game, I've been probably a lot angrier, a lot more furious at certain moments after games for various reasons. So it's not quite as enjoyable when you're not winning games, but it's a different challenge. The challenge is very, very enjoyable. The fact that you're going up against some of these sides and some of the players and some of the squads that you're going up against, that's an enjoyable thing. It's a good thing to test yourself as a coach and to make sure that we have the versatility to adjust to the level as well. So in some ways it's more enjoyable, but it's just my mood for the weekend and obviously for post match is largely determined by the result on the day and to a certain extent the performance. So when we play well and we win games, I'm quite happy, and when we don't, I'm not.
We've seen just how cutthroat this league is with, I guess most recently, Des Buckingham, someone losing his job. Was that a bit of a reminder to just how kind of brutal this division is?
To a certain extent. Look, it's never nice to see opposition coaches and managers lose their jobs. That's obviously something that always plays in the back of the mind, I think, of every coach up and down the country. And it's just part of the game, really. But I think the bigger reminder is just what we see day in, day out at the Championship is just watching games, seeing how difficult it is, watch any Championship game of football, and you know that if you make a mistake, you're going to get punished. So I think that's the bigger reminder on a daily basis, and we know we've got to be right at it to win games.
And just on Des, are you confident that he'll get a job straight back in? Would you like to see him back in the Championship again?
Yeah, I mean, Des did a fantastic job with Oxford last year, so I'm sure there'll be plenty of takers. And it's one of those where he's got a promotion on his CV, and I wish him all the best.
With this Christmas period, it's so relentless, the amount of games you've got coming thick and fast. Have you managed to take a moment to relax with the family? I'm sure you guys were training on Christmas Day, but have you managed to kind of relax with your family over the festive period? And what kind of a sacrifice is that, and how tough is that for you, having to be away from your loved ones over this time of the year?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's something that ever since I met my now wife and we've had kids together, Christmas has always been a really, really busy period when you're a player, whether you're a coach. It's even busier when you're a coach. So no, you don't get a chance to sit down and relax. That's fine. That's part of the business. We're not going to cry about it. And we all know what it's like going into Christmas. We all know what it's like going into Easter. And if you want to get into the industry, then you got to take the rough with the smooth. If you want all the highs of winning football games and the glory of everything that, for example, we achieved last year, then there's going to be some sacrifices to make, and you've got to get on with it. And no one's forcing us to do it. It's our choice, and I don't want anyone to feel sorry for us. It's if you want a bit of time over Christmas, then don't be in football.
With Bristol City, who you've got coming up next, what do you make of them so far this season, and Liam Manning?
Very, very similar to what I would have said prior to the home game. Really good side. I think going into the home game, I think they just turned Plymouth over at Ashton Gate. I'd seen some excellent football from them. I actually watched Bristol City at Watford. They should have beat Watford. They were the much better side on the day. And I think Liam knows that. They've got a really good system with some really good players, and I think he's a fantastic coach. So I think that in terms of the threat that Bristol City pose, we've seen at the weekend where they've come away with a positive result against last year's aside from the Premier League last year. And probably my overriding opinion is it's going to be a good game of football. It's going to be an exciting game of football. I thought it was a really good game of football when we were at Fratton Park. It's going to be different, obviously, because we're a few weeks separated and it's a different venue, but I think it should be a good game of football. How
much can you take from that home game, and obviously turning them over 3-0? Do you think the lads have got that mental edge that we've done it before, we can do it again?
I think so, and there's going to be that in terms of what we have going into the game, and for Bristol City certainly they're going to think, it's really good that we've got them 3 weeks later, a bit of a chance to put things right for them. So there's going to be a bit of edge to the game both ways, and I think that's great. It's a really interesting part of the season where the fixtures flip over, and sometimes you have a side that you've played right towards the back end of that first period of fixtures, and you get to play them again. Bristol City, Swansea are another one that we're going to be able to do that with. So I think it's I honestly think it's going to be a good game of football, and both sets of coaches, players and supporters, etc. are going to want to win.
And just finally, I should ask, what's the latest on Matt Ritchie, and also are there any other kind of fitness-related things that have popped up in the last couple of days?
Yeah, Matt's okay. We went outside today. We didn't train, but we went outside for a walkthrough, and Matt's all right. He just took a whack, and you could probably see in the second half that he was struggling. Matt was obviously disappointed to come off, but I could see he was limping, and I didn't want it to cost us. It would have been something that if something had happened in the game when we've got substitutions to make, I would have really kicked myself there. So Matt's okay, and no further injuries to report.